the impeachment probe now, and the parts of the phone call at the center of the inquiry that the White House apparently omitted from the memo. Remember the memo that they released that basically kind of explained how it all worked?
Well, he said, yeah, here's the transcript. And
the revelations come from Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, the top Ukraine expert on the National Security Council, who testified for more than 10 hours yesterday. According to a lawmaker who was present for his testimony and another source familiar with it, Vindman told investigators that he tried to edit the White House's reconstructed transcript to reflect President Trump's mention of possible recordings of Joe Biden discussing Ukraine corruption and Ukrainian President Zelensky's specific mention of the gas company Burisma, which hired Biden's son Hunter. President Trump's mention of a Biden recording appears to be a reference to the widely circulated video of the former vice president speaking at an event for the Council on Foreign Relations. According to the New York Times, Vindman testified that some of his edits made it into the reconstructed transcript, but not the ones about the tape and Zelensky's Burisma comment. He did not speculate as to why the mentions of Joe Biden and Burisma remained omitted. And so, this revelation contradicts the president's repeated claims that the White House released an exact transcript of the phone call. Here he is, as recently as Monday.
They tried to take that conversation and make it into a big scandal. The problem was we had it transcribed. It was an exact transcription of the conversation. The whistleblower reported a totally different conversation than I had. I released a transcript of my conversation, an exact transcript.
I thought that I would finish off the first term without the threat of people making false claims. But this one turned out to be incredible, all because they didn't know that I had a transcript done by very, very talented people, word for word, comma for comma, done by people that do it for a living. We had an exact transcript.
Willie, the lying. I
Wow.
mean, the lying is so, it's breathtaking.
Astronomical.
I mean, the actual document of that, quote, exact transcript released by the White House says on page 1, caution, a memorandum of a telephone conversation is not a verbatim transcript of a discussion. The text in this document records the notes and recollections of Situation Room duty officers and NSC policy staff assigned to listen and memorialize a conversation in written form as a conversation takes place, and not a transcript. So the president has exact transcript, word for word transcript, comma for comma. He's lying. We knew he was lying from day one, just like we knew he was lying about Baghdadi, that the dog whispered to him that Baghdadi had whimpered and cried. And the story about China calling, China called last night. China called last night. Yeah. Come on. China called last night, by the way, which of the 2 billion called. And now this exact transcript. So we knew he was lying from the beginning. But now we find out that they would not put in the most damaging parts of that transcript, and the lieutenant colonel tried to get them to do it, and they refused.
Yeah, we always knew this wasn't an exact transcript. How did we know? Because of what you just showed. It was written on the top of the document that this was not an exact transcript. So no matter how many times the president says it, it doesn't suddenly become true. Clint Watts, one of the lessons, I think, of this administration is that your suspicions usually end up being true. And when you see a bunch of ellipses in that summary that the White House put out of the phone call, we wondered what was in those blanks. And now you have Colonel Vindman coming out and saying, here's what was in the blanks. Mentions of Joe Biden, mentioned by President Zelensky of Burisma, the company on whose board Hunter Biden sat. This testimony, again, from Colonel Vindman, we had it yesterday morning with the opening statement, now very specific testimony confirming what most people suspected was that the White House tinkered with the document. It also explains why they had it locked up and hidden, the full transcript, in that classified server usually reserved for other top secret material.
Yeah, it's remarkable because every day we learn of one more person that heard about this phone call, that knew about this phone call, that when they come forward or tried to do something inside the White House, this colonel immediately tried to bring it up the chain of command. He went to the NSC lawyer, tried to bring this up. He tried to correct that transcript that we see is missing these key elements of information. And so when they get called, to testify, Colonel Vindman is going to say the truth, right? He's been serving this country for basically 2 decades. He knows what this policy is that we're supposed to be pushing in Ukraine. And so then when you watch both the Republicans and congressmen, when you watch the president immediately tear down this individual's credibility, it just sticks out like a sore thumb that there is something going on that the White House wants to hide.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.